we are going to solve hacking attempt problem. So Zolo is stuck in a traffic due to a dysfunctional traffic light. Zolo is a professional hacker and he can get into the system and change the state of the light. His planet has different types of traffic lights such that there are n bulbs on the traffic board and only when all of them are green the cars can pass. There are two other states in which the bulb can show, apart from the green, red and yellow. Note the lights are designed such a way that they follow a state cyclic pattern as follows from red to yellow, yellow to green and then again back to red. Once Zolo gets in the system, he can select any position I and update all the elements between I to min of n I plus k minus 1 by increasing their state by 1. The whole process takes 1 second and he can repeat the process any number of times until he get all the lights green. So this is the basic concept. So to write this program, so let us first write the input cases. Input x equal to, so in this editor the data would not be passed, so I have to manually enter that. So if you look at this problem statement, I would also urge you to go through these sample input and sample output explanation. Once you go through that, the entire problem statement would become very easy to do. So let us write this statement 2, then it's R, then it's yellow, green, and at last again yellow. So to get the values of n and k, would basically be the int input x 0, and now here we're going to assign the lights value. So it should be basically all the values except the initial two, so it should be n and k. So we'd be applying slicing and dicing in Python. Now let us create a dictionary. And we'll be assigning state values. So for example, G would have a value of 0 and G should be our end goal. R would have a value of 1 and YOLO would have a value of 2. So you can write any numbers, but always remember the pattern. So as it's a cyclic state, so from it would be coming like green, red and yellow. So follow means apply this pattern. Once this is done, it's time to write our array x, create an empty value, and now for each in lights. Basically what we are doing here is that we are appending the values. So basically you're converting those values of green, red and yellow to its corresponding numeric variable so that it would be easier for us to perform operations. Once it is done, let us create another variable called iterx. It would be 0 and the number of operations that would be requiring to for us to get all the traffic lights to green. Now we will create a while loop. So while. So what would be our end goal? So our end goal would be a situation when all the values in our array x is 0. So how to understand all the values of array x would be 0? So we could perform normal checking that would check whether all the values in our array X are 0 or not. Or basically, we could write one thing, we could just sum them up and check whether the sum of the array is equal to 0. So, sum of the array would be 0 in a case when all the values that is present in our array would be 0. So it's kind of a tricky way of approaching this problem. So when that value is not equal to 0, we will continue to our loop. And our iterates should be less than the number of lights that are present. And we will create our range. Range x would be so if you look at our range x formula, it is very similar to this one. The mean of n I plus k minus 1. But in here it is like, in our case, it's like mean of n I plus 1 plus k minus 1. The reason for doing it is basically our indexing in Python starts from 0. Okay, and here they're expecting indexing starting from 1. So that's the only reason for updating the formula. So at the first glance, we'll be checking whether the current iterate's value is equal to 0 or array x of iterate's percentage 3 is equal to 0. So we could move from, say, suppose the initial value of light is 0, 1, 2 something. So if our iterate's current iterate's value that you are checking, whether that value is 0, then you can move to the next level, or then you can move to the next light. Or we could reach a situation where after, means basically whenever updating value means we have to add, for example, in this case, so let's say there would be a traffic light and its value is like 0, 0, 3, 1. So on the first case, the value is 0, it will move to the next step. On the second iterate, the value is same, so move to the next state. In the next state, so basically the value would be 3. So we'll be checking that, we'll be taking that value and perform a remainder operation by 3. And if that value is coming out to be 3, then we'll again move to the next step. And in this step, we will just increase this value by plus 1. And again, we'll be again moving to the steps and again increase the value to plus 1. And once we have done plus 1, in the loop, we'll be again checking the current value of 3 and perform a remainder operation and to get the result. And once we have get the result, so we'll be counting the number of steps that you've performed. So we'll be increasing the iterates by plus equal to 1. And else part. So if the current iterates that you're checking, the value is not 0 or 3, so in that case, we would be updating all the values in that range from iterates to our current range x value. And at last, we'll be increasing our count value by plus equal to 1. And at last, we're going to print the count. And I hope this would work. Yes, we are getting a proper result. So we have successfully executed the problem. And thanks for watching and stay tuned.